Okay, so we can get started here. I just want to thank you all for being here, and I'll go ahead and introduce each of you. I'll just go in alphabetical order, I guess. So I'm with Andria Braggs, who goes by Anj. She's a painter and digital media artist. Erica Martinez, a fabric artist and fashion designer, correct? And Martez. Sorry, did I say Martinez?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah. Martez. And
okay.
and Gary Mason, who is a photographer, and you also produce some music.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so if in that same order, you guys could just introduce yourselves a little bit more and talk about how you got involved with Black Moon Collective.
Sure. Okay. I got involved, I think around this time last year, actually. So it's been almost a year for me. And at the time I was living in another city in Oklahoma, and I was graduating and with a bachelor's in fine arts. So I was kind of like, what's next for me? And I heard about this artist collective. Honestly, it was on Facebook, like this Facebook group I follow. And I got really excited because I was like, this is be awesome. I'm coming to Tulsa. I'm going to make new friends and people of color, more people of color in my life. So I got really excited. I applied and I got it. And it's been quite the adventure ever since. So it's been really nice having a collective of artists, people who look like me, working with me. And it's been really inspiring and great. So.
And Erica?
Okay. Erica Martez. I guess I was a founding member somewhat. It was really an accident that I joined Black Moon. But I've been here since the beginning. My really good friend Alexander Saman was a part of Black Moon when they had their first show in March of 2018. So it's been 2 years. I was just helping out. And then I just had a conversation with Beth, our founder, kind of a couple months later, and told her what I did and showed her my work. And then it kind of just turned into a thing. And I just asked her, I was like, oh, am I in this now? And she's like, yeah. So I've kind of been rocking with it ever since. It's been a lot of seeing some people come and go and a lot of transition, but it's like On said, it's been really inspiring. I've seen myself grow as an artist and as a person, and I've seen my peers grow as well. So it's been awesome.
So before we move on to Gary, as a founding member, could you talk a little bit about how this came together and a little bit about Elizabeth Henley, your founder?
It came together. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. Who are you talking to? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was talking to Erica. I was.
Yeah,
no worries, no worries.
Well, Gary could probably tell you more about that, but because Gary has been in it since the beginning, like for sure, for sure. But Beth, she just expressed a desire for us to. Well, when I say us, I mean African American artists, to set our own table instead of always looking for a seat at someone else's, and that inspired me. She's just, from my experience, she's a very fiery person. She's very ambitious, but she has a heart for artists. She's kind of like the mother hen of us all, and she's like the filter. She takes all the things for Black Moon and kind of filters through that. And then as far as being a founding member, it just started off, as far as I understand, as this one show that they did at the TAFT, Social Artist Fellowship. They used someone else's studio. And then it was just like a dope show that became something else. So it was cool to see them evolve. But like I said, Gary can probably tell you more than that, but because he's been there since the beginning. But that's my experience.
Okay. And Gary?
Oh, no, just to piggyback that, I mean, it was basically that. Beth was with Holy Mother, like she was doing things with them, and she didn't see herself within that collective as far as representation. So she went out to want to do her own thing, and as she was on the hunt, she reached out to me because she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And I mean, that's basically it. We did a meeting, see how serious we were, and then we just went from there.
So now there are 9 collective members, and when it started off, about how many people were involved?
It fluctuated. I want to say 12. I want to say between 12 and 10. Was it 12? Because we started out huge, like,
Okay.
and then we was trying to figure out who fits where. So it kept going around between 10 and 12.
Okay. And
Yeah, it started off I think at 12, and then we were at 10 for a cool minute, and now we're at 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw on the website that you guys were looking for new members to join, and people could send submissions and stuff. Did the pandemic interrupt that, or?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. By a landslide. As we compared to last year, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Uh-oh.
And you guys have done lots of shows. I guess the most notable ones that I've noticed so far have been My Black Life and the Silhouette Show, which was at the end of last year, right? Or was it the beginning of this year?
No, it was last year.
Yeah, the end of last year. And so can you talk about some of those shows? And I kind of just want to be a moderator in this conversation, just let you guys have the floor, do as little talking as possible. So what have these shows been like? And you guys can just hop in talking about that.
I mean, I'll just say that for me, wanting to explore this new world with these new people in Tulsa, like jumping right off the bat, like I joined and then we had that show, My Black Life. I'm not gonna lie to you, I like felt like a little, like a star, almost like a local star. Because I mean, we did like promotions for that show. So I like sat in front of a camera and like talked about my artwork. And when we did the show, it was packed and there was so much engagement. There was even some drama that went down with some people. So it was kind of like so much happened in that night and I felt so alive. And I was like, I picked the right place to be. And these are the people I want in my corner doing art with me. So it felt really amazing for me in joining in that way.
For me, I would say My Black Life was probably the most memorable, but we've had some that were pretty close, but just, I will say My Black Life because of the influence and the impact and the theme of the show. I think we all kind of dug deeper in places that we kind of muted, just being Black people and Black artists. A lot of times people tell us to not utilize that or express our Blackness or the struggles. I'm sorry, my dog is going crazy. The struggles of being Black in our art. And so I was very proud of how we all kind of showed up in our unique ways. Gary did this dope kind of photo thing. And I got the opportunity to be a part of that. Ons did a really cool, like, superhero renditions. And just, I could go down the line of everything that we all did. For me, I did a fabric piece that featured Black women, and they held up signs basically highlighting some of the things that they hear as that are irritating as far as Black women. And someone said, "You're articulate." Some said, "You know, you must be mixed." And it's stuff that we hear every day that people don't understand is problematic. So that was, like I said, that was the most influential because we were able to dig deeper as artists, and then we were able to have an artist talk to go deeper into that. So that's what was impactful for me.
Yeah, and I was going to say that too. I would say that's our most successful show up to date because of the impact. And I've never seen any of our shows packed like that too, like from inside and outside in the way it was like rotating in and out. We haven't seen anything like that. And I think the more important thing was it was memorable for, you know, years on out, later on down the line, and that it did make a real big impact too. Yeah,
and to get into kind of some of your art individually, I'll just go right back to you, Gary. You moved to Tulsa, I believe, in 2014, and you started shooting photographs around the same time, right? So it's something that you've been doing it a while, but fairly recently you discovered that about yourself. And
right.
What has it been like coming back to Tulsa and shooting this city with a camera? And can you talk a little about that?
It's been pretty wild. I actually moved back in 2011. 2014 is when I started actually kind of taking it serious, when I caught myself like, oh, okay, I can do something with this. I'm like 3 years in the game, taking it serious right now. And a lot of people don't know this, but I started off on my iPhone 4 and my iPhone 6. So I used to keep that away from people because I didn't want that to take away from my art. But now I'm like more confident to say that now that I have a camera and I shoot on film, but a lot of people don't know that. And I've come a long way, and I've learned so much along down that line. And this wild, like how far I've come, and I'm just curious at how I'm gonna be like in the future as well.
Great. And speaking about the future, a big part of your art, Anj, is Afrofuturism, right? And can you talk about that and what that means for you, and just how that impacts your practice? Because I think that's such a cool concept. It instantly reminded me of like the writings of Octavia Butler when I first read kind of your artist bio and was looking at your work.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, for me, and I feel like this is common, so I'm not even trying to make it sound like I'm unique in this way, but I was like a loner kind of kid, and I watched a ton of anime, and you know, Sailor Moon is one of the shows I actually, because I rewatched it when I got my wisdom teeth pulled like a few years ago, because I was just down and out, and I just rewatched so much of it, and I realized so much of my inspiration comes from those girls and how pretty they were and magical and powerful. And that show, even though it's like pretty basic, it does empower young women, I feel like. So for me, I wanted to take that, and I take those inspirations, and my style, even if I'm drawing or painting, is very graphic and like dark, heavy line work, almost animated type styles, and really bright and colorful. And so, and I started, you know, being inspired in modern day from people like Janelle Monáe, and also authors, you know, like Octavia Butler, but who are really inspired me to focus on what the future is going to look like. And that's also my personality type. I tend to not focus on the past, and I like to move forward. And it makes me happier to think about, we are still here, we're going to be here, and what does the future look like with us, like finally not fighting so hard to be equals, if not appreciated for our beauty and who we are naturally. So I think that explains it, yeah.
Great. And Erica, I wanted to ask you about, I think that fabric art and fashion are it's such an interesting art form, because it's not the first thing I think that comes to most people's minds, but those two disciplines are very, very important, especially with representation and fashion. It's literally on the skin, you know, it's such an important thing. So how did you get involved in those practices, and what have you been working on recently?
Okay, I'll answer the first question. How did I get involved? I've always been kind of a different kid. I wasn't necessarily the most popular, but I was always in that group. I was kind of like a Kelly more so than a Beyonce. So fashion has always been like something that I was around. And I remember my mom took me to my first fashion show when I was like 15 or 16. And seeing in Colorado, I was from there, and I lived in Colorado before it was cute and fun. So seeing an entire show full of Black people was very inspiring to me, and I was seeing the things that they were making and the way that the models moved, and I knew I wanted to do that. I thought I wanted to be a model at first in my teenage years, and then that didn't work out, and so I moved back to Tulsa in 2015, and I started fashion school at Clary Sage in 2016. And I had the idea that I just wanted to be a stylist until I took my first class, and they gave me a sewing machine, and I found out that I could sew. I learned how to sew probably in 2.5, 3 weeks. And so that's how I got started in that. And I decided, you know, I can do this. And then it evolved from more of like construction, from like concepts, like versus like doing a sketch and then making a pattern and then sewing it together. For me, it was more of reconstruction. Taking something that someone else made and kind of making it my own. So that's kind of been my niche. What I'm doing now, I do a lot of different things, and it kind of just goes with my mood. I wouldn't say I'm doing more fashion right now. I've been doing a lot of painting, but my painting is not like my colleagues. I'm very inspired by what's happening now and what's happening in history. I'm kind of a history buff. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I just don't let anybody know that. So to me right now, it's very interesting to see how history is repeating itself. And so I use that as inspiration to kind of, I guess, do my part to protest a lot of things that are happening. And so I use fabric and kind of, I'm into wood, so I paint on wood instead of canvas, but I've been doing that. And yeah, that was a long answer, but yeah.
Oh, great. And anyone can hop in on this, but I wanted to talk about that, about political change through art, because conversation people are having right now is that non-people of color should not ask people of color really to have to explain themselves anymore, or ask them, you know, what does this mean? How can I do this? How can I do this? That's an extra burden that people shouldn't have to put upon others. But when art speaks for itself and art is able to represent something and express something, that's very important. So have you noticed this group from the beginning being a political act, or how would you guys consider your own artworks to be political, or like Erica said, expressing history or history repeating itself?
I don't know if we all consider ourselves like activists. I will say I'm a very outspoken person in general, so I've kind of taken that role just for myself. Being a Black woman and being marginalized in that way, I feel that we need to say something. And when you made a comment like about white people or non-people of color asking questions, I create pieces so that the conversation can be sparked. I want you to ask questions. I want people to see where we're coming from. I want to see if you get it, if you get the message that I'm trying to convey. So I don't mind the questions. I understand that just like the people who are not non-people of color are they're deprogramming and they're going against what they've been taught from childhood. So it's a transition for them as much as it is for us. So yeah, I'll let someone else talk.
I can kind of expand on that. And also what I love about Black Moon is that even though we're all artists and we're all Black, like we're all different, but we all accept each other. And I love hearing all the different perspectives as well. But I personally feel like, yeah, like the history is not that hard to find. You may not have been taught it in high school, but you can read and you can do your own research, because I have. And I have had to learn about my own history in that way too. And I really think, you know, a disservice has been made as far as teaching Black history in detail to these young minds. So, but when it comes to like our show at the gallery, My Black Life, like if you're asking questions from a place of like compassion, and I feel as though you are actually going to listen and not argue with me, I'm totally open to that. But when it comes to talking to a stranger and they say something that might be triggering for me, I don't feel like it's my place to try to change their mind unless they are receptive. Because I just hate that. Like I don't feel like I should have to argue that, because you don't look like me, so how can you understand? Just like I can't understand.
Yeah. To clarify that perspective that people have been talking about, I mean it when that the burden does not fall on people of color to change, right. You know, non-people of color's minds. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
Generational trauma. No, it's fine. And generational trauma, I feel like, is very real. And yes, as an individual, I have not had to fight like my ancestors have, but my ancestors have had to fight just so I can relax, you know, and they wanted to see a future where their children and their grandchildren can exist without all this pain and suffering. And yeah, we are still dealing with a lot of pain and suffering. And I am open to conversation. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm not, but I hate sometimes hearing that. I had no idea. And it really takes all of this for people to actually do a little research on their history, the history of America.
I was about to say, as far as my artwork, I never really looked at it as political, or like Erica said, as us being like activists on behalf of that. I know when it comes to me with things like that, I can be real direct. Like with my Black life, I just had to make it to where it wasn't as artsy, and if that makes sense, I wanted to make it real direct. Like, okay, here's a portrait of this individual, and here's what something that happened to him. So you can know that, you know, people that you know that are going through the same thing you see on TV, like just things like that. So that's why I commend individuals like Erica, who can see something on TV, go do something, and then fight to the flag, like what she did. I don't want to misquote what's the title of the new piece you did, the recent piece you did?
You're talking about the American flag?
But yeah, the one you posted.
Yeah, Bloodstained Banner is the name of that piece.
Yeah, see, like stuff like that. Like I don't see myself doing stuff like that with my camera unless it's really intentional or like theme based, or if I'm on an assignment, so to speak. I don't usually go for it like as if I'm a photojournalist. But when it comes like that, I can be real direct and have it speak for myself, have it speak for itself as well. But I like individuals like Erica who can just put something together like that, or like when she did the Ku Klux Klan hood, stuff like that, and it can really speak volumes for itself. Like I really commend individuals who can do that and like let it speak for itself and have it make a statement.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And I commend anyone who makes political art and puts their opinion out there in such a way, because it is a very vulnerable thing to do. And I wouldn't even say I'm an activist in that way, because I mean, I make art and I might express sadness or emotion. And also, like we talked about, like futuristic art, which can be political, like saying that we're thriving or that sort of thing, but not quite like what Erica did and stuff that is more like in your face. I'm talking about this. So bravo, Erica.
Any follow-up, Erica, on that intersection of activism in your art?
Yeah, I can't really say that that's something I intended on. I just know that it needed to be said and it needed to be done. And when I got the idea, first it started off with the hood that Gary talked about. We were doing a show in the Brady Mansion. We did two, but the first one was in 2018, I believe. We were in collaboration with a group called Breakout, who that's its own other organization, and they do amazing things. And they came to Tulsa to purposely educate influencers from all over the country and let them know about the history of Tulsa. And so being in that space, I knew I couldn't do something just pretty. I wanted to do something that told the truth. A lot of Anj talked about history, and a lot of the reasons that people don't know is because things are swept under the rug. Like Tina did a bomb piece in that same show that I was referencing. She did with Broom, or no, that was actually Beth. Who she did brooms, and she talked about how everything was swept under the rug, and the way she did that was amazing. And so I guess I kind of stumbled on political art just because I want to tell the truth. I'm a truth teller. I'm an Aries, so we're not afraid of the truth to begin with. And it seems like people really don't want to confront what's right in our faces. We're more comfortable with living a lie, and it makes me uncomfortable when people say that, or non-people of color say that racism doesn't exist, or people of color, it's over, we're not slaves anymore. However, we cannot just be Black and do normal everyday things. And the fact that our ancestors have paid for our freedom with their lives and their blood, and nothing has been atoned for that, I think it's about time that someone says something. People say, well, our ancestors will avenge us. Well, they're not able to. It's time for us to avenge them and to do what they couldn't do and use the voice, because now we have more autonomy and we have more freedom to convey what they couldn't do. So that's kind of how I stumbled upon that. And it started with that hood piece, which was very, it took a lot of energy to do. And I haven't done anything like that since, until this summer, with everything that happened with George Floyd and everything like that. I did the flag because, like I said, the truth needs to be told. The national anthem is a very racist song, And so I played off of that to create the flag, which is a black and white flag covered in blood, because it's the blood of my ancestors, and it's true. We have built this country, and we continue to be oppressed and murdered by the powers that be. So that's where that came from.
And that's really inspiring, really powerful. And doing this series, talking to lots of people, it takes all kinds. It takes painters, photographers, fashion designers, musicians, or somebody like Onika opening her bookshop, or Vanita opening up a sneaker store, And I just see great things happening in Tulsa that really bring people together, despite everything that's going on around us. So what was it like for you guys working as individual artists in your own practice and then coming together as a group? How has that helped you grow, and what's it like being a part of? We've already touched on this, but maybe more specifically.
Do you want to go first?
Gary, you want to go?
No, shit, but I like the ladies to go first. I don't want to cut in. It's all right. I'll let y'all go first and then.
Sure. So I haven't had a lot of experience outside of being in the collective and being in school. So I've always had this like guidance with me. It could be curious to see what that feels like without. And I would say maybe that there was like a year in between being in college and then joining this artist collective. And I will say I felt a little lost, and it was hard to know what to do to become like a successful artist or to become a working artist. And you just get busy with work and obligations. So I wouldn't even say I did very good as far as working towards any goal. And being a part of the collective, you have this accountability now that's different than college, where you see your peers working, producing, posting, and you're like, I need to do something. And so it kind of inspires you to push yourself, because you know people are watching that you care about, that you look up to, even for me. So it's been very helpful, and I've been more encouraged as an artist to keep going since being a part of the collective.
Okay. Being a part of a collective versus doing things on your own. Before I joined Black Moon, I was kind of on my own, so it was very difficult. It was very hard to kind of get your name out there and separate yourself from other people. And then when I joined Black Moon, or when Black Moon became what it is, it was easier. Like An talked about at the very beginning, you kind of felt like a celebrity because all of these opportunities are always coming at you versus you having to go seek them out yourself. Mm-hmm. So now we have this problem of like, oh my gosh, well, I'm too busy to do this, or I'm too busy to do that. And it's like, it's really just a text message or an email versus like trying to fill out an application or go to different galleries and trying to get your stuff there. So that is something I'm very grateful for. And then as far as the collective itself, we are a family, and there's issues just like any other family. We are all different, very strong-willed, some more than others, but we are very opinionated because we're artists, and we're also very sensitive. So we have that, but we also have the ability to kind of come together and feed off of each other. We have times during our meetings where we can critique each other's art and kind of just push each other and challenge each other, which is something I also appreciate. So that's why I love being a part of this collective.
Yeah, I said before I joined Black Moon, like I said, I was just posting a lot on Instagram, like heavy off my iPhone, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to approach establishments and try to let them know like what I was trying to do. So that's all I knew. And then when I joined Black Moon, like I learned so much. Like I got put on so much game, and I gained so much knowledge. That's one of the more important things to me about this collective as well. Like I just learned so much. And I like to apply it to my peers as well, especially other photographers who I see trying to do their thing. So I try to pass down as much knowledge to them as well.
Yeah, kind of following up on that, what what advice might you guys give to people, you know, who are fresh out of college trying to work as artists, or young Black artists in Tulsa who maybe don't have a group like this? What can they do to be more involved in those organizations? You know, maybe what would you tell yourself like 3 years ago?
Oh
Man, stay tapped in. I mean, it's funny now. Sorry.
I know. I was piggyback. I was like, you just gotta be consistent.
Yes, you got to be consistent. You have to find that motivation yourself, and you have to make work every day. Like, I think a lot of successful artists produce, and then they promote, and then next thing you know, they didn't even expect it, but one of their pieces gets more hits, and next thing you know, they're in the public eye. And I think it's really helpful if you don't have a collective to keep your ear on the ground, and whatever that means for you. So get on Facebook groups that, you know, support local artists. That's how I found Black Moon, and how I found other opportunities. And just find venues where, because there are venues outside of artist collectives that are promoting opportunities. But yes, you are alone, and you have to try to stand out amidst a bunch of other people. Being in a collective is really helpful. It elevates all of us.
My advice, I'm a little different. I would say, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily post every day. I would say post things that you are emotionally connected to. My thing is, if I were just to make things just for the sake of making it, it wouldn't be something that I'm connected to. But that's just me. And I would say find your tribe, like Arms kind of alluded to. Search groups, things like that. Find people that you can connect with and create with, and people who will push you and things like that. But for me, I would just say, like, follow your heart and do whatever is in your heart to do. That was, for me, is looking back on the last few years, I wouldn't have done anything different. My experience wasn't just finding something online. It was kind of just being with a friend who was in this group, and then I got invited because I was passionate about helping, and I also happen to be an artist. So if I didn't have that heart to kind of do what was in my heart to help out and get connected just for the sake of being connected, I wouldn't have found that opportunity. So that would be my advice.
And not to, oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say if anyone else had something to say.
Didn't want to, I'm not saying that. I don't think you should post every day. Post things that feel good to post, but people have given me advice before that pertain to making work, because making work is practice.
To produce
Practice
every
makes
day.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't post everything, gosh. No.
No, I was just not disagreeing. I was just saying, for me, I couldn't, because anything that I feel is noteworthy, I post, but I don't post any, you know, it's like posting and creating go hand in hand for me. So it's like, if I'm not going to post it, I'm probably not going to make it. So that's just me.
Right.
But
I can see that.
yeah.
And let's talk about the most recent mural project, the Black Lives mural that went downtown, kind of across from the BOK Center on Juneteenth. I know that the muralist and painter Yadika Fields, an indigenous artist of Osage descent, helped you guys put that in. So I'm not sure who exactly in the collective was there painting with him. I think I saw a photo where you were there, right?
Yeah, most of us were there.
Okay.
It was the girl.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all the women.
Okay.
Yeah, I think all of us? All the females?
Feels like it, yeah. It's Melody.
Yeah.
Everyone. But, you know, even though everyone wasn't there, I feel like we still, you know, include people who weren't there, because we really did it together. We wouldn't be here without everyone.
That wasn't like a dig. It was just we know Gary and Alex were working, so it wasn't like a dig on them. But I just find that empowering, the fact that it was all from Black Moon who were there. It was all females, and I just thought that was cool. But that experience was amazing. to do that.
It was.
Can you guys talk about putting that in and what it was like working on a big public art project like that? Because especially that area of downtown, it's not particularly pretty. So I look at doing something like that. It's like beautification. You know, you're making the city more livable, more enjoyable to experience. So tell me a little about that project.
Yeah. Erica, do you want to lead? I feel like I've led too many times.
Okay, I'll lead. For me, it was very fun. That was my second-ish mural that I've worked on, but I was more involved, I guess, helping with this one as far as content and what was actually going to go up there. It rained off and on that day, so it was very fun to kind of paint and then hide under a tent with like 10 people in the middle of a pandemic, and then come back out like nothing had happened. But just we could feel the tension because Mr. Trump was coming into town the next day, and so we were right, like you mentioned, we were very close to the BOK Center. So there were barricades set up, there were police cars kind of driving by. And one thing that I took away from that was just the fact that the person who wanted us to do it, Chip. I don't know if he's actually Caucasian fully, but he's Caucasian presenting. And he had to be there the whole time just to tell police, like, I gave him permission to be here. And I was wondering the whole time, like, I wonder what would happen if he wasn't here. That was kind of the most empowering thing. It was that someone else still had to vouch for us. But I was very proud at how we handled the situation. We just kept painting, and we wanted to, at least I wanted to leave a mark on the city. I'm not from Tulsa, so I wanted to, that's always been my goal, to leave a mark and to leave an impact. So that's what I took away from the mural, and I think we did an amazing job.
We really did, and it was, for me personally, I've also felt that tension. I didn't know that about Chip being there, which does explain why it went so smoothly, because I kind of thought, I don't know, people walking by, people did, a couple people said some weird things walking past, and I was a little concerned for my safety with all of the tension building with him coming in, and knowing that his supporters were just right around the corner. So I was just like, I don't know, but we still did it, and it was easier knowing that everyone had each other's backs, so we were all there together. We weren't alone. And even though Yadika doesn't want to take like credit for that mural, he helped us so much get it all set up and get it ready to go. And for a lot of us, that was like the first time doing a big mural, and we busted it out in a day. It's
huge.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I'm really grateful to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, and Yadika also like travels around, when there's not a global pandemic, travels around teaching mural classes and like doing murals with classes and stuff. So that's great.
He's amazing.
Yeah, Gary, how has the pandemic affected your practice? Because it's really hard to shoot photos from home. Have you been masked up out in the streets, taking pictures? And
that actually picked up close to a month ago. It picked back up. A lot of stuff got canceled. Like I was on the verge of shooting my first wedding. I was showing in Oklahoma City, things like that, and all that got temporarily pushed back or canceled, of course, with what was going on. So everything just picked back up recently, so I'm just still trying to get into the mix of things. What's been keeping me afloat was my music. So, thankfully I had something like that to where I just couldn't solely depend on, photography.
Okay. And I don't want to assume that, the pandemic hasn't affected you, Andria, Erica. How has that affected the collective in general and your own practices?
I don't know, I feel like we don't get together as much as we used to. My calendar used to be full of Black Moon activities. And for me, I'm like, we're pretty introverted. I'm like social anxiety, and it really got me out of the house. And I started meeting people, and I felt like, okay, I'm connecting with these people in Tulsa. What's next for me? And now there's nothing on the calendar except for just like a few things, or like a Zoom meeting or something like that. And we just kind of check in with each other. And so everything we do is really social and we gather. So everything has really been pushed back. So I'm just excited for maybe, you know, soon things can kind of start going back to normal, maybe.
Yeah, mine's the same. I've actually been inspired. I was a pretty busy person before the pandemic, so I was forced to be at the house, which was hard for me. I am by nature more of an extrovert, so I like to be out, but just kind of being forced to kind of be in the house gave me the opportunity to reflect, and of course, that made me want to produce. And I haven't really produced anything in a while. I took a sabbatical for the later part of last year, and so yeah, so it kind of had the adverse effect for me. But I do miss kind of gathering with my people. I used to look forward to our meetings, even though during the meeting it probably didn't seem that way. But I really did enjoy gathering with my tribe, and so not being able to see them and interact and kind of like put my hand on them and be sarcastic with them did like affect me personally. But so yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like at the same time, everything I just said and what Erica said, I have this momentum from being in the collective and now not having really any events to where I'm less busy. So I now have this more time to create. And I've made like a few more pieces that I'm pretty proud of, but I'm like, okay, like, but I had time to do this now. So I'm just trying to take this time to actually use it to be more creative. And then once we get back up and running, then I'll have more work to show and more things to sell. So could be good.
And what's the future for Black Moon Collective? Do you guys have any big stuff planned for when the pandemic's over, or maybe next year for the 100th anniversary of the Greenwood, the Black Wall Street race massacre, or any big shows coming up when all of this, when people are able to gather in galleries again?
We had so many shows coming up.
Yeah, we can. I was like, that's very hard to answer because we had so much stuff lined up, and of course, you know, things been temporarily pushed back and things like that. So, as far as like that, I wouldn't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
You know?
We had the anniversary show, new members. Yeah. We were gonna do something for the 99th anniversary, like big things and big monumental moments for us. You know, I had some members that had solo shows. The founder had a solo show. 2 members had their own show, and all of that was canceled. So I don't know if we're gonna try to do the same thing next year. Who knows?
We'll see. Yeah, that's kind of a best question. I don't really know what that is, but we're still gauging because we don't know if we're going to be locked down again or how that's going to look. So we're kind of just holding on, I guess.
Yeah. And everyone I interview, I ask this question towards the end. So we can just go down the line again. And it's, what's the one thing you've missed most during the pandemic? You know, just out in Tulsa, whether it's something as simple as a place you like to go out to eat or somewhere you like to gather with your friends.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go out to eat. And actually, cause I like to sit at the bar. Yeah, well, if I'm by myself, I like to sit at the bar, eat by myself and things like that. And I like to explore like the food scenes. I'm real heavy on local. So I miss that.
Anywhere specifically you'd like to shout out that's your favorite place?
Oh man, there's a lot of places. Longwood, TNT, Chimera.
Yeah.
And then my my new ritual place is Black Wall Street Liquid Lounge now. I'm glad they opened back up. Yeah. But yeah, that's a few of them.
Yeah.
I miss Guthrie Green. I miss kind of being out on a Sunday downtown and hearing like the most random music or just running into someone that I know. And just being able to, and all the dope festivals that we used to have at Guthrie that were free. I really miss that. I also miss Chimera. I just miss being able to just be out and gather on Wall Street or on Greenwood and to just enjoy people that would be out and about without having to wear a mask or being separated or 6 feet apart. So that's what I miss.
I've been back to work now for almost 2 months. So
Wow.
for me, it's like all these things have kind of gone back to normal outside of having to put a mask on. But the only thing that I haven't been able to really experience has been Black Moon. So I just really miss all of you and coming together and our meetings and our events and the socializing and the nightlife in downtown. I miss all of that.
Well,
Yeah, I miss the art crawl.
Yeah.
See, I forgot we even had that. Yeah, see, I missed the art crawl too. Like, I forgot all about that. Yeah, I really missed the art crawl. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was usually when we would have shows at the beginning of the month, and so
Yeah.
having that last 2 weeks of the month, you're preparing for whatever you have going on, whether it's something you're involved in or a colleague. I miss that. I miss being able to support other artists and kind of just going and feeling like a dope ass artist, and
Yeah.
I miss that.
Yeah, for sure.
well, it sounds like the collective is going strong underground, and as soon as things are back to normal, back on its feet, Root Tulsa is definitely going to promote anything you guys do, any shows, and just reach out to us if you need anything, because this is exactly the kind of thing that we want on our site and on our social media. So Andria Braggs, Erica Martez, Gary Mason, where can people find your work? And is there anything you want to mention in particular?
You can find most of my recent work on my Instagram at Anj23, AUNJ23. And I also have a website, andriabraggs.com. But my Instagram is like up to date with everything I'm doing right now.
Okay.
Same. Instagram at Miss Erica Martez. No, none of those extra letters. But yeah, and then I think I have the link to my little page on the Black Moon website on my Instagram. But everything is pretty much everything that I want up there is up there. So yeah.
The stuff that was worth making.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram, my name backwards. You might not understand if I try to spell it out. Gary Mason, flip it backwards. That's me on Instagram. Yeah, exactly.
No silly rags.
Exactly. I just lost train of thought. We're on the Black Moon website too, blackmoontulsa.com. You can shop my pieces up there. And then DJ No name is my website. You can see my music.
And I'm a terrible interviewer. I almost forgot something so important that I wanted to touch on. That's so you guys are trying to fundraise and raise money to have like your own space and a permanent place to gather. So we can talk on that however long you guys want to. There's no.
I think we met our goal.
Wow.
And then some, I think.
And then some, yeah. It's doing pretty good.
Okay.
Like that didn't stop. Yeah. It didn't stop after we hit our goal, which kind of shocked me. Like people was like, nah, we're gonna still, do what we can. That's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we're in the market for a space.
So the fundraising went well, and you guys are on that path. And is there any
that was
kind of?
amazing.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was saying that's amazing. That people are still donating to us. A lot of businesses did like partnerships with us where they sold a product and we got the proceeds, or I don't know about all of them, but we got a certain percentage of the proceeds. So that was amazing, and people were just randomly giving us money. So that was really cool. Yeah, that was like, so I don't know how we can thank them, but I will say thank you to everyone who did that. We really appreciate it. So.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
We're evolving as a collective.
Is there any kind of timeline for that? I know that everything's up in the air with the pandemic, but you guys are looking for a space. When, maybe before all this happened, when were you guys hoping to move into that spot?
I'm not sure. I think, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think Beth is handling the majority of our space details.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's looking now. And I mean, I think the goal was probably sometime this year, but it just depends on how things are going in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, the studio was one of the main goals more than anything. And, you know, with everything that's going on, she's like looking, but then she's like, is it, you know, is it beneficial because of what's going on? Like, so she's like in between that, but she's still on the hunt at the same time.
Okay.
And I think we have to consider programming because we have money for a space, but how are we going to continue to fund that space?
Yeah.
And so we're already brainstorming different things that we can do, workshops, shows, etc. But like, I think we have to get like a solid idea of how we're going to continue to raise funds as well.
Yeah. Well, to anybody out there listening, support Black Moon Collective if you can. It's such a great cause, and I can't wait to see you guys hopefully in person, hopefully soon, see your art, and
yes, indeed.
Whatever happens next. And the only last thing I think I have is Erica. Can you introduce your dog to them?
Oh, he's like in the back seat. I can grab him.
He's a cutie.
He is my quarantine pal. I got him, I think he was 4 weeks. So I got him in April. There he is. His name is Kush. I named him after one of my favorite things. And he's just my buddy. Like, we go a lot of places together. Like, I've been in my car. And so, yeah, we have a little bond, and he's kind of spoiled, actually, very spoiled. So, yeah.
Kush is glowing right now.
Yeah.
He is. Like, yeah, his skin, I don't know what happened, but his fur is definitely popping. He's got a little melanin in him. But yeah, he's been popping lately. So yeah, that's Kush.
Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you all, and stay safe out there.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.